Everybody's Dr. Joe here on this Wednesday evening, pre-Thanksgiving Day. Hope everyone's doing well wherever you are. And I'm going to try and keep it brief today. Not too, because I know everyone's getting ready for Thanksgiving, so I'm not going to have a long session today. But if you got some questions, feel free to put it in the chat box, and I'll get to ask Dr. Joe shortly. And today we're going to focus on Section 8, specifically the advantages and the disadvantages of the Section 8 as from a landlord's perspective, and why you, if you're a landlord, should consider Section 8. I know there's a lot of stereotypes associated with this program. You know how it is. Section 8 tenants are going to trash your house, non-stop drama, chaos, confusion. You collect your rent with a bulletproof vest, and they're going to just be havoc and mayhem and so on. That's the stereotype associated with this tenants. But my experience is that, yes, there are tenants like that, but there's also a lot of tenants who are not like that. And some really, really good tenants in the program. And at the end of the day, when you cut through the chase, they're really no different than you and I. They're just good people. And they're looking for a decent house in a decent area and looking to rent from a decent landlord. No different than what you would look for if you're looking for a house, and so on. So that's what I found. And I call these folks the tier one tenants. I'm sure you've heard that term before. Tier one tenants is my definition anyway. All those tenants that's going to pay you, take care of your house, no drama, and hopefully will stay a long time. So that's what I'm trying to attract. There's a lot of tenants who are like that, but also, unfortunately, there's a lot of tenants who are not like that. So your goal is to, kind of, what's the right word? Get the diamonds in the rough. How about that? And because if you get the diamonds in the rough, it's a fantastic program. As you know, my longest tenant is 27 years. And I regularly have 20, 15, 18, 10, 13-year tenants and so forth. So anyway, so we're going to kind of talk about some of those things today and why I feel that you should consider it. So I'm going to break it down as usual into 6 parts. And so I suppose from an introduction standpoint is why you should consider it. From my perspective, it's a stable income stream. Most of the rent that's paid to you by the local housing authority is guaranteed. So as long as the tenant's in there, as long as you're compliant with the program, then you will get paid. And I've been through 6 real estate cycles, downturns. And if it wasn't for Section 8, I don't know what I would have done. And tenants lose their jobs, their circumstances change. And if I had market renters, and there's nothing worse than having a great tenant who loses their job and they can't pay you. It's a very uncomfortable discussion. And with Section 8, it's okay. If they lose their job, their income goes down. They go to the local housing authority, their rent portion goes down, and the housing authority's portion goes up, to cover the difference. So, that's in short. It's a $135 billion program. It's the largest rental assistance program in the United States. It's funded by HUD, and it's administered locally by your local housing authority. There is a housing authority in every jurisdiction in the United States. So wherever you are, there is a housing authority that has jurisdiction over your area. And so maybe a good idea to find out who it is, reach out to them, find out more about the program and how it's done locally, and hopefully you can get the ball rolling from that perspective. Okay, so in terms of action items you may want to consider, look into the requirements. Make sure that Section 8 is right for you. You want to identify if there's a demand for the types of houses that you have in your local area. And you may want to connect with other local landlords to get their experiences in your area. Okay, so let's get down to it. What are the advantages? And I suppose the question becomes, how can Section 8 enhance your rental business and provide stability? As I said earlier on, the real, I think, great feature of this is the guaranteed income stream. guaranteed rental payments, which is as long as you have what we call a HAP contract, Housing Assistance Program contract or payments contract, then the local housing authority has agreed what the rent is going to be. They've agreed what portion the tenant's going to be responsible for, and they've agreed also what portion they're going to pay. Okay, you have to go through a whole bunch of different processes to get to that point. But once you have a contract, then that rental income stream is guaranteed as long as that tenant is in the house. Obviously, you have to abide by the program rules. For example, the house has got to meet what we call housing quality standards, HQS standards. So you have to have an inspection that's performed at the property by a local housing inspector from the housing authority, and they'll check things like, I'll talk about it a bit later on. They check things like health and safety, the windows open properly, the doors open and close properly, the appliances work, the electrical outlets work, the smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, all the bedrooms have legal requirements for bedrooms and so forth and so on. So they'll do, an inspection of your property. As long as you are compliant and you as a landlord, comply with the program, then your payments are guaranteed. And because it's guaranteed, it helps you with your cash flow. You can now, rely more on a stable income stream, a stable cash flow, and so you can start planning, regardless of the economic cycles, regardless of what's going on in the economy, and so on. It's good. And also, there's a large tenant pool. There's a lot of people who have vouchers who are looking for quality housing, quality areas, and quality landlords to rent from. So, the more bedrooms that you have, the more rent that you'll get, and so on. So, and as I said before, one of the things I like about it is I tend to get longer. Tenants tend to stay longer. Section 8 vouchers, and so therefore you have less turnover, and because you have less turnover, you can reduce the large expense. The biggest expense is turnover. Since you're having less turnover, more the money that you get every month goes more into your pocket. So also it's up to you. I mean, I like the fact that I'm providing quality housing to families and giving families an opportunity to live in a decent area, a decent house, and I'm a good landlord. So yes, I'm making money, but I can also make a difference in people's lives, and that's what I like about it. I was talking to one of my tenants. Again, it depends on you. Some landlords, all they care about is the money, and that's it. It's all about the bottom line, the dollars, and that's okay. I also like the fact that I'm making a difference in people's lives. And case in point, I was speaking to one of my tenants not too long ago, 6 months ago, and she told me that by renting from me, 2 of her kids have been able to get a full ride to go to college. Essentially, the kids are in a better area. They got better neighbors, better friends, better school, and so they've been able to change the trajectory of the children and the outlook of the family. So to me, that's a good thing. It's a plus. It's a win-win. They're happy. I'm happy. And I'm, doing a good thing. And I'm also making a difference in people's lives. So that's what I like about it. So in terms of action items for you, you got to, decide what's important to you. Do you like, is the fact that you have consistent rental, reliable income stream important for you? You got to contact your local housing authority to find out where the demand is in terms of the area, what size bedrooms they're looking for in terms of properties, and and try to develop relationships with your local housing authority key members. Okay, so go to number 2. So number 1 was what are the key advantages of Section 8, and number 2 is what are some of the challenges of of the Section 8 program for landlords. Okay, I suppose the question is, how can landlords navigate the administrative and operational hurdles of the Section 8 program? It is a bureaucracy. I mean, it's run by a local housing authority, it's a government agency, and as a result of that, there's bureaucratic stuff you got to deal with, different bureaucratic processes, paperwork, and you got to wait on other people, which sometimes they run on their own schedule. And so it can be a little bit frustrating. So although there are significant benefits, I think it's fair for me to talk about some of the challenges One of them, obviously, is the inspection process. Now you have to deal with a government agency to make sure that your house passes inspection. If you're renting to a market renter, that is not an issue. But since you're dealing with Section 8, that is an issue. And so you're going to have to deal with that. One other thing, there's paperwork that you have to fill out. There's what we call an RFTA, which is a request for tenancy approval. This is the packet that you have to fill out and submit to the housing authority once you've selected a tenant. So there's quite a bit of paperwork. There's a lot of stuff that they ask for. They want proof that you own the house. They want your bank account information, voided check. There's a whole bunch of checklists you got to comply with. You got to indicate who's responsible for the utilities, the heating, the cooling, the appliances, and all that kind of stuff. You got to designate all that in the paperwork, and also you got to indicate how much rent you're looking for. And just because you want a certain rent doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it. There's some level of determination by the housing authority as to what they're going to approve. Sometimes they pay higher, the market rent, and sometimes it's lower. So it just depends on your jurisdictions. But there is some back and forth that you're going to have to deal with if you're going to participate in this program. So the paperwork, the inspections, and and depending on the local authority, it can be a slow, painful process, and where the the staff work at their own pace, and then you just have to deal with it. Okay, so that's some of the disadvantages. And so let's go to number 3, which is how can you prepare your property to pass the inspection? Because, as I said before, the inspectors are going to do what we call a housing quality standards check to make sure you're compliant with HUD regulations. So the question is, what steps do you or should you, have in place to ensure your property meets Section 8 inspections? So as I said, mainly most of the times the Section 8 inspectors, or technically it's called a Housing Choice Voucher Program inspectors, they're looking for health, safety, and functionality. They want to make sure that there's no health issues, no tripping hazards. The windows open, the door closes, the locks working, the carbon monoxide, the smoke detectors are working. There's no, obvious tripping hazards, safety issues. They're going to check all that. And I just had one a couple of weeks ago. I think one of my properties. It can be relatively short or it can be relatively long. I think my last one was about 45 minutes. So they go through the house. Depending on the inspector that you have, it can be a very drawn out, drag it out process, or it could be quite short. It's the luck of the draw to a certain extent, but there are standards that the house is supposed to comply with. As I said, that's called a housing quality standards. You can do a Google search and to find out more about that. And many times the local housing authorities will tell you, this is what our inspectors are going to be checking. So if you're a savvy investor, you're going to go through your house beforehand to make sure that you've checked everything, so you increase the chances of success. Obviously, if you find something that's not working, then you want to take care of that before the inspector, shows up at your house. If you fail the inspections, then depending on the type of inspections, they usually give you some time, maybe 28 days or so, to correct the problem. And then the inspector will come back. And assuming that everything's okay, then you've passed and you're good to go. If you fail on the second time round, then this is going to depend on your housing authority. But technically, depending on the type of item it's failed, they could stop your payments. They could put what they call into abatement. Abatement means that they're going to stop their payments, and now you're getting zero from the housing authority, and until the problem is resolved. If it's a real major problem, they'll kick you off the program, and therefore you'll get nothing, and you're barred until you start. You got to start all over again. So it's a serious thing, the inspections. You don't want to mess around with it, because that is the most common ways where landlords, have their payments stopped. And some inspectors are reasonable, some of them are unreasonable. And in my experience, it's just better. It's the luck of the draw. If they cite you for certain things, just take care of it. bite the bullet, fix it, and so that way you pass it on the second time round, and that way your payments will not get stopped. It will not get quote unquote abated. So it's really important to have a proactive approach. Know the rules of the game, know what the inspectors are looking for, and you take care of it beforehand. So what are some of the action items? Look into your local housing authority, get their checklist of what it is that they look for, and check your properties, do regular maintenance, and make sure you have contractors available who can help you on short notice. Okay, so that's number 3. So let's have so far I've talked about what are the advantages of Section 8. I've talked about some of the disadvantages or challenges associated with this program. And number 3, I've talked about how can you prepare your property for Section 8 inspection. Okay, moving right along. I know it's pre-Thanksgiving Day. Again, if you've got some questions, put them in the chat box, and I'll get to them very, very shortly. As usual, put your questions in the chat box. If you want to book a one-on-one with me, you go to www.joeasimo.com, www.joeasimo.com. You can schedule a one-on-one with me to answer any questions that you have. I had a great session today with David, and it was really, really helpful, and it helped. I think I provided him some insights and some good ideas. That kind of moved him out of the rut that he was in terms of how best to proceed with implementing his strategy. So we had a really good session. David, if you're there, I enjoyed that conversation. And I look forward to working with you as you build your portfolio. You've got 2 properties right now. I know your goal is to get to 3, 4, 5, 6. And I look forward to helping you on that journey. So again, if you have any questions, if you want to, if you're, having problems, stuck, a deal that you want a third, a fresh pair of eyes to go through it with you, book a one-on-one with me, and I'll be more than happy to help you as you, build your portfolio. Okay, so let's keep moving on to number 4, and let's have a look here. Go back to here. And so I'll put this one on. I'll put this one into your questions in the chat box. How about that? So we've got some questions put in the chat box, and I'll get to them shortly. So number 4 is how can you attract quality Section 8 tenants? What can you do to attract quality Section 8 tenants? As I said before, there are good, bad, and ugly in tenants, in all types of tenants, market renters, and Section 8. And your goal, obviously, is to attract quality tenants, the tier 1 tenants. So the question becomes, what marketing strategies can you implement to ensure you get reliable tenants? So in my opinion, attracting quality tenant is the absolute key to this. If you nail this, you are great. You're good to go. If you make a mess of this and you get the wrong person in your house, it is a disaster. So it's really important to attract, appeal to, and select quality tenants. So attracting quality Section 8 tenants obviously depends on marketing. You're going to highlight the features of your property, proximity to things that they look for, like shopping, recreation, transportation, schools, and those kind of things. Safety is important. Essentially you have to market why your property versus somebody else's. I recommend you use photographs, videos if you can. I recommend you stage your homes. You want to differentiate your product, differentiate your house from your competition, and therefore you stand a better chance of attracting them. Okay. And where you advertise, you want to contact your housing authority and find out where do they recommend people go. It could be Zillow, it could be some other platforms. You want to advertise there. You want to have really good verbiage on your advert. You want to talk to the Section 8 voucher holder and really highlight why your property is a great property and why they should consider renting from you. Again, you have to differentiate yourself from your competition. You're not the only guy in town. You're not the only girl in town who has a property to rent. So the question becomes, why should they rent from you versus rent from somebody else? And the good tier 1 tenants have choices because everybody wants to rent to them, and so on. So another thing you may want to consider is incentives. Sometimes you can offer incentives as to why people should apply your property. It could be reduced application fee, you know, discounts and things like that. You can offer those incentives. I don't really need to do that for my properties because I'm in a place where I have high demand, low supply. But if you're in an environment whereby you have it's a weak market in terms of demand, then you may have to offer you know, incentives to get people to you know, to apply. And I know there was a time where it was really tough to rent my properties, and the market had turned, and everyone was leaving DC, and I had to offer stupid stuff like free toasters, free vacations, just to get applications, and so on. So it's really important to differentiate yourself in your competition in order to attract quality and reliable tenants. Number 6 is how can you build a long-term relationship with Section 8 tenants once they're in your home? So the question becomes, what strategies ensure tenant satisfaction and tenant retention? As I said before earlier on, the key to your success and my success is to minimize turnover. The revolving door, when people come in, they rent your place for a year or two, they leave, you got a vacant unit, you got to empty it, you got to clean it, you got to, you know, you still got mortgages to pay, you got to advertise, you got to paint, you got to do all that stuff again and again and again. It's very, very expensive. So you want to put strategies in place whereby you can develop relationships with your tenant so they can stay a long time. Open communication is obviously it's important. Responsiveness to maintenance requests is very, very important. Don't be condescending. Don't look down on your tenants. Don't think that, oh, well, you're just Section 8 tenants, you'll take anything. No, 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 no. You be respectful, pleasant. Most of the tenants who I have, I call them by Miss Jones, Miss Smith. I don't call them by their first name. I give them the courtesy because society generally talks down on them, and I want to show them respect and let them know I'm just a regular guy, and you know, I'm not arrogant, I'm not sort of condescending and that kind of stuff. Checking with your tenants is also a good idea every now and then, and just make sure they're okay, make sure they're happy. That's a good strategy. And as you know, I give gifts, Christmas presents, birthday presents, Mother's Day gifts, and things like that. That's what I do. Again, just to let them know that I appreciate them, and they are my customers. They're the ones who bring in revenue, and I'm trying to be a good landlord. If something goes wrong, I try and fix it as soon as possible. I try to develop mutual relationships with the tenants, where it's a pleasant business landlord-tenant relationship, and so hopefully they reciprocate that. Not always, but most of the times they do, because I try to get tenants who they're just looking for a nice house in a nice area and a nice landlord to rent from. So that's number 5, which is how can you build a long-term relationship? Obviously, there's a lot more to each of these things, but I'm just kind of going through it. Number 6 is how can you maximize profitability with Section 8? How can you maximize profitability with Section 8? I suppose the question is, what steps help balance profitability with program requirements? So maximizing profitability obviously is very important. It is a business, and you want to maximize profits, which is either maximize income, rents, or minimize your expenses. So that's something you want to consider. And the biggest expense, as I said earlier on, is turnover. So I focus on that. And in terms of maximizing income, there's really only so much you can do, because the rent for your property is based on market conditions. Just because you want $1 million a month doesn't mean you're going to get it. The market will determine that your house is only worth $2,000, $3,000, so you don't have much control on the income side, but you do have a lot of control on the expense side, and that's something which a lot of landlords don't really consider. So streamline tenant selection, tenant processing. Focus on customer satisfaction, maintenance is important, and really just be a good landlord, and customer service becomes a strategic imperative. But I can't minimize the importance of tenant screening, getting the right tenant in your house, making sure that you have certain things in place such that hopefully you'll be able to appeal to these tier 1 tenants. That's the key. I think last week I was talking about, I have a course That's primarily focused on tenant placement. If you're interested, you can always go to the website which I have for that one. It's tenant playbook .com. That's what it is. I think it's called the let's have a look. Yeah, screeningplaybook.com. Screeningplaybook.com. So if you want to check that out, screeningplaybook.com, and you can check out online course that we have. I just put it out there recently, and it's really good. It's got videos, it's got tutorials, it's got exercises, questions, quizzes that you may want to consider. So go to the website tenant screening playbook. Screening playbook, screeningplaybook.com, screeningplaybook.com. And you may want to check it out there. Let's have a look. So as I say here, wise landlords don't solve problems, they avoid problems. So purchase the tenant screening playbook today, www.screeningplaybook.com. And with that said and done, in conclusion, why mastering Section 8 is a smart investment, in my opinion. Section 8 offers landlords a unique opportunity to combine consistent income stream, tenant stability, and community impact. Yes, there are challenges associated with being a landlord or participating in the Section 8 program. There's no nirvana, I suppose, no perfect land. No, there are challenges. But yes, challenges exist. But that happens all the while. But I think once you take the time to understand and learn the program, it's really good. So by leveraging Section 8 effectively, you can differentiate yourself in a highly competitive environment wherever you are, and you can build a thriving rental portfolio, and you can make a meaningful difference, in my opinion, in other people's lives in your community. So that's really, I want to kind of wrap it up today. That's really in my opinion anyway, some of the features of Section 8, some of the advantages and disadvantages of Section 8 from a landlord's perspective. So with that said and done, my friends, I'm going to turn it over to the Q&A session. So if you got some questions, please, put your questions in the chat box. And if you want to shoot me an email, you can shoot me an email at joe@joeactionable.com, joe@joeactionable.com. And if you want to book a one-on-one with me, you can go to my website, www.joeactionable.com, www.joeactionable.com, and we can do a one-on-one. And hopefully I can help you execute. My goal is that everybody on this live stream buys their next house, if possible, before the end of the year. It's not easy. You got to have your finances together. You got to be able to find deals. You got to be able to transform these deals. But it's doable. And if I can help you on that journey, please reach out to me and book a one-on-one with me, and we'll see what we can do. I did a great session today with David, and looking forward to, I think I've got a couple more next week and so forth. So with that said, my friends, let's get down to the Q&A part, and let's see what's up. And we have Melissa. Hey, Melissa, in Denver. I hope you're doing well. And what happens when the voucher holders' dependents turn 18? Do they age out from being a dependent? Do the voucher holders have to downsize and move on as dependents move out? No. As long as they're living in a home, as long as they're on the voucher of the voucher holders, they stay there. I have some tenants who they got adults, 20, 30 years old on the voucher, on their parents' voucher. So they don't automatically age out. In other words, to answer your question, Melissa, it depends if they leave the house, if they go somewhere else by themselves, or if the parents kick them out and take them off the voucher, then they get downgraded. Depending on the jurisdiction where you're in, that may affect the voucher size. So they may get downgraded, for example, from a 4 to a 3. Or if they have a new child, again, depending on the housing authority, you may get upgraded from a 4 to a 5. So it just depends on who is on the voucher. And typically they what they call recertify every year or every 2 years. And that's when they'll determine whether the voucher stays the same, or whether it goes up, or whether it goes down. But as long as they're in a home, they do not age out. They have to, either leave and take themselves off the voucher, or or they're removed from the voucher in order for the voucher to change. Okay, amen. Hello, Dr. Joe. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to you. Amen. Hope I pronounced that well. Aloha from Hawaii, financial firefighter. Hope you're doing well, financial firefighter. And Ankara Studios. Hey, Dr. Joe, my name is Yao Ankara. Yao is a Ghanaian name. I run a local video agency here in the DMV. I love to work with you on a project as well as helping you step up your quality for these lives. Okay, good. Ankara, well, again, reach out to me either on my email and joe@joeactionable.com and see what we can do. You can book a one-on-one with me. And if I can help you in your journey, then please, I definitely would like to do that. The DMV, which is the Washington, D.C. area. And I'd love to be able to see how we can work together. So shoot me an email or book a one-on-one with me, Yao, and we'll see what we can do. Okay. Jay Rizzo, doesn't the local housing authority basically pay the market rent regardless of HUD's fair market rent? No, it depends on the local. They're supposed to do a rent comparison every year, and some housing authorities pay above market rent, and some housing authorities pay below market rent. It just depends. And so sometimes it really does make sense to go with the housing authority, and sometimes it doesn't, because the rent that you're going to get is less than what you can get from market, and therefore you have to make a business decision whether you want to go with the program and get the same, less, or more rent, or decide just to focus on market renters, and then you'll get whatever the market rent is for that area. So so it depends on the local housing authority, and also the number of bedrooms that you're going for, whether it's 3, 4, 5. And I like to get 4, 5, and 6. I like the big houses, and I found that with the larger houses, you can sometimes get market, or sometimes even greater than market. Okay, Melissa, as part of renovations, do I install a security system? It depends on, again, where you are. It depends on, it's not necessary, but obviously if you're in an area where it's not safe or people steal stuff, you may want to install security over there. It gives you peace of mind, and it protects you, it protects your contractors from theft or any damages and things like that. So, I'm not saying don't do it. I don't usually do it, but but it's your call. But if you do install a security system, obviously you want to let the contractors know, and so that way they don't trigger the smoke detector, screen security system when they come in and leave the property. Okay, good questions today. Again, if you got some questions, please put in the chat box, and I'm going to get to them shortly. Greetings from Phoenix. Thank you, Dr. Joe. Dow 2. Hey, Dow 2. Hope you're doing well. And so on. Ty. Hey, Ty. If 2,500 was listed as the fair market rent for a 3-bedroom house in a certain zip code, are you saying it's not guaranteed we would get the entire 2,500 depending on the voucher holder? No, I'm not saying that, Ty. So if you're in an area, let's just say the market rent is 2,500 for a 3-bedroom, then the housing authority will make a determination whether that's what they're going to pay you. If they may pay you 25, they may pay you more than 25, or they may pay you less than 25. It depends on their determination. And so you want to make sure you understand who makes that determination. If there's a gray area, what do they use to determine whether you get what you're asking for or less? I know in this area where I am, in Washington, D.C. area, we have to indicate, obviously, the number of bedrooms on our property, but also we have to indicate the amenities associated with that property. For example, does it have appliances? Does it have ceiling fans? Does it have a washer dryer? Does it have off-street parking? These are amenities that, if you have them, you may be able to get, if there's a gray area, get extra rent because they value these things. And so that's the Washington D.C. area. Now, if you go to another jurisdiction, that may not be important to them. They may look at other things. Also, utilities. Who's paying utilities? So you may or may not get what you're asking for based on the utilities that you as a landlord are paying for and what you're expecting the tenant to pay for, and also the zip code, also the amenities, and also the voucher size. So if a person has a 2-bedroom voucher, they will not pay the 3-bedroom rate. They'll only pay the 2-bedroom rate. So there's a few little nuances, Ty, but generally it's not guaranteed. But there are things that you can do to increase the chances of you getting market or even higher than market. Okay. Renaud, I have a DC voucher tenant who was evicted and made their way back into the unit and continues to barricade themselves inside. Oh my God. MPD won't make entry. They say it's a civil matter. Any ideas? Oh my God. Okay, so you have a tenant who has a voucher, who was evicted, and somehow they got themselves back in, and the police won't make entry, and they're saying, hey, it's a civil matter, it's your problem. What would I do? Okay, I would certainly contact the housing authority. And well, first of all, will the housing authority pay you, because the tenant's in the house, a portion of the rent that they were supposed to pay? You won't get the tenant's portion, but you may be able to get the housing authority's portion, because technically the person is in the house. I doubt that's going to happen, because normally once someone gets evicted, they terminate the contract. So they're not responsible. They wash their hands off it. So, and the police, it sounds like, even though this person broke back into their home, they're saying that it's a civil matter as opposed to a criminal matter. I'm not too sure about that, but that's what it is. So if that's their position, you probably need get some legal advice. And you can't, I don't know if you can turn the utilities. I don't think you can even turn the utilities off. And how did they get in? Did they break in? If they broke in, to me, that's a criminal. I mean, it's forced entry. You can't just break into people's houses and just live there. If they caused any damage as they went into the property, that could be something that you may want to consider. Otherwise, you're going to have to get legal representation and speak to an attorney. Unfortunately, DC is a very pro-tenant jurisdiction, so it's going to take you a while to get through the legal system. I hope you have a what we call a basic business license, because if you don't, and the place is registered with what we call the Rental Accommodations Division, then it could be problematic. So I would say at this point, if the police doesn't want to get involved, then your early recourse is to file trespass, or or file a lawsuit in landlord tenant court for a tenant holdover, and so on. So unfortunately, the laws are very pro-tenant in DC, and attorneys are not cheap. But I would definitely think that you may want to contact an attorney. Otherwise, Renard, is to contact the court, DC Superior Court. They do have a service whereby you can speak to a neutral party, and they can, attorneys, and they can give you their suggestions on, what you can do from a landlord's perspective. They normally represent tenants, but it's free. So you may want to call them, Renard, and see what they can do. I've been to landlord tenant court, and they can offer minimal relief. Okay, so you've been there. Let's have a look. What do you say? No one in my network seems to have had this issue before. It's not common. So I think the early recourse at this point is legal, and I hope you have your paperwork in order. To start the legal process, but it's not going to be quick. It's going to be a drag out process, and you may want to contact the housing authority and see if they can put some pressure on this tenant. Find out who the caseworker is, and see if you can apply some pressure from the housing authority perspective, because this person tends, if they're not careful, they're going to lose their voucher, and once they lose their voucher, they're off the program. So that's a carrot and stick that you may want to offer them. Hey, if you do this, I'm not going to report you to the housing authority, because if I report you to the housing authority, then you're going to lose your voucher, and once you lost the voucher, you will not be able to get it again. So that could be some leverage you may want to consider leveraging, Renard. If anyone's got some ideas for Renard, please share them, and then we can go from there. Melissa, could you do an episode on how to purchase from wholesalers, how not to get taken advantage of, different ways to settle a contract? Oh my God, wholesalers. Yes, I think it may be worthwhile. There are wholesalers and there are wholesalers. There's some really good wholesalers. There's some really crappy ones. I got burnt big time from a wholesaler. They sold me a house which they didn't have under contract. They committed fraud. It took 7 years to resolve it. Some of these guys are just not ethical. Let's just put it that way. So good idea, Melissa. I'll make a note, or you can shoot me an email and let me know the kind of topics you want me to cover, and I will do my best to see what I can do. Okay. But good question. Okay, I'm sure there's a history behind that one. Do you use a staging service for decor furnishing your properties while they're on the market? Interested to find out how you approach staging, as your properties always look terrific. Yes, I stage all my properties. As I said, my goal is to differentiate my product, my house, from everybody else's, and staging, because no landlords do it. Very, very few landlords do it. So if I have a beautiful house and it looks well, it's got furnishings, it's got furniture. It's got the bed there, it's got a couch there. It looks like a home as opposed to a house, and it kind of inbuilt emotions. So it's like when you go to buying a new house, you go to a development. The developer usually has a model home, and the model home is usually staged. It's got furniture in there. It's got knickknacks. It's got furniture, all furnishings. It's got a whole bunch of different things. Why do they do that? They do that because they know that you buy based on emotions, and they want to, generate emotions. They want to put emotions into the house. They're not going to show you an empty house. And that's the same thing in my mindset, is that I'm trying to differentiate, because if I have a quote unquote model home, then I'm more likely to get more applications. And the more applications I have, then I can raise the bar in terms of the screening criteria, and therefore I can have quality tenants. So that's why I do it. My wife happens to be a stager. She does have a staging business. So obviously I use her services. But really, I use that. We have professional grade photographs. We do a virtual video, and we market heavily, strategically, for voucher holders. And that's why I'm able to get multiple applications for each house that I have. So again, I'm trying to differentiate myself from the competition. I'm trying to do things that other landlords don't do, because I'm looking for tier 1 tenants, and and so on. So hopefully that helps. But good question, Katie. Rick, if the tenant is not paying their portion of the rent, what are my options? If they're not paying their portion, you got several options. You got one is you can contact first of all, you can file a lawsuit, eviction, because they're behind on their rent. And so you can file paperwork in your local landlord tenant court. Other options are you can contact the housing authority and let them know that the tenant's not paying. Because if the tenant's not paying, they are they're not in compliance with the program, and so technically they could get kicked off the program. And once they get kicked off, that's it. They're done. They lose their voucher, and they'll never get a voucher again. So that's something that you may want to do. But that's really your two choices. You can either take them to court. You can obviously call them and find out why they're not paying, and maybe work out a payment plan, or discuss options amicably. You can obviously take them to court. If the rent's $1,000, for example, and they're supposed to pay $200, and the housing authority pays the $800, if they're not paying their $200 portion, then all you're getting is the $800, and which means that you're $200 short. So you can file, a lawsuit, a landlord-tenant claim for the missing $200, and so they could be evicted, if they're not paying. But I wouldn't let it off. I mean, some landlords are just, I don't like it. But I mean, some landlords don't. If they're not getting their $200, they just write it off and don't bother trying to get it from the tenants. I completely disagree with that approach. They're responsible for paying their rent, even if it's $1. I want them to know that I'm expecting that $1, and if they don't pay that $1, then we need to talk about it. Okay, question 2, if we don't want the tenant and they are not paying on time, it's better to go to eviction or termination of the agreement and give them notice to leave. If you don't want the tenant, again, it depends on your jurisdiction where you're in. You may not be able to have them give them a 30-day notice, and you may have to give the reason why. Obviously, non-payment of rent is a good reason. And if you file a lawsuit in landlord-tenant court, then obviously there's a process based on the jurisdiction that you're in as to the paperwork, the notices, the timelines, and things like that. But yeah, you do have the right as a landlord to go to landlord-tenant for eviction if they don't pay the rent, as long as you comply with the local laws in your jurisdiction. So it's question from Jerry Lemon. In New York, if you post "do not trespass" signs, then it's easier to evict a squatter. Yeah. What you should have done, I think it was Renard, I think. I mean, it's neither here nor there at this point. You could have put a security system after you evicted the tenant, and that way you have a recording. And obviously the tenant broke in, so you couldn't have secured the place. It's kind of too late now, but if you do evict the tenant, you want to secure that property, put some security systems in there, and put the signs, "do not trespass," or whatever it is that is okay in your jurisdiction. That way, it may be easier to evict a squatter. I don't think the squatter is a tenant, so you shouldn't have, the process should be quicker. But again, I don't know. It depends on the jurisdiction that you're in, and so on. Okay, it's got some good questions today. What's the time? 7:51. So we've got a couple more. What are the downsides to hiring a property management company to manage your Section 8 unit? Property management companies. I just haven't had any luck with property management companies. I haven't found any that's worth it. I've been doing this for over 35 years, and I manage all my properties myself. And I know some of you will be horrified by that, but I found it to be fine, as long as the bottom line is the person is going to be interested in your property, your profits, your welfare is you. You can't expect a management company, a third party, to have the same concerns about your property as you do. They some of them have the hidden agenda, and some of them I just haven't found any. Again, I'm not going to try to talk bad. There are some really good management companies out there. It's just unfortunate I haven't found any, but it doesn't mean that they're bad. So the downsides Obviously, there's a, I don't think they're as thorough. They don't do home visits like I do for screening. They certainly don't give presents, Mother's Day gifts, bouquets of flowers. They don't do any of that stuff. Customer service is spotty at best. Sometimes they have a large portfolio and hundreds or even thousands of units. And, who gets the attention, in my opinion, are the people who, the larger landlords. So they may or may not get around to you because you're just a small fry in the big pool. You're a small fish in the big pond, and so on. Again, that's just, so sometimes the agendas are different. They make money when there's a turnover. It's a profit center. They make money for when there's the repairs, because sometimes they tack a little extra for management services on repair. So again, I'm not going to talk negative. There are some downsides, and I've just shared a few of them. There are some upsides, obviously. At least you got somebody else, in theory anyway, handling your property and taking care of those things. Okay, last questions. Are you and your students currently borrowing and leaving money in the deal, or are you expecting an infinite cash on cash return? I'm finding an infinite cash on cash return very difficult. Yes, it's harder to be able to take out all your money on a burr. Interest rates are higher, and as a result of that, loan payments are higher, which means that the amount that you can borrow when you do the refi is going to be less. And so, it may mean that you're leaving more and more money in. Obviously, when the interest rates were 3-4%, you could take out more money. But now that interest rates are higher, 6, 7, 8%, your mortgages are higher, your payments are higher. So the DSCR ratio, or the amount of money you can take out, is less. And so, which means that since you can borrow less, it means that you're going to have more money left in the deal, when you do the refi. So you won't have an infinite return. There'll be some money that you're going to have to leave in the property. If you can handle that, that's fine. If you can't, then obviously you're going to have to get some private investors or people who are patient, and hopefully they will, allow you to recoup your money and leave their money in the mix. Okay, I think we are good for the day. I thought it took a little longer than I thought it'd be. I thought we were gonna have a quick session. Again, I want to wish everybody a happy, merry, safe Thanksgiving, and let's make 2021 a great 2024 a great year, and 2025 an even better year. Let's stay focused on your goals and how we can pull the trigger, take action, and build a portfolio. At the end of the day, you can't YouTube your way to financial independence. It takes hard work. It takes action. And if I could be of assistance to you on your journey, please let me know. Book a one-on-one with me, or just join me every Wednesday on Wealth Wednesday. Ask your questions like you did today, and I'll be more than happy, if I can, to answer them. Jerry's in California, apparently home visit screening is now illegal. Wonder if DC is heading that way. I wasn't aware it's illegal in I wonder why. It's not illegal here in DC. So I'll be interested. I've never heard that before, Rizzo. I know some people may object, but I didn't think it was illegal. It'll be a problem if what I do is I do home visits for all applicants, not just voucher holders. So, because if you only did it for voucher holders and didn't do it for anybody else, then you got a problem there. You're exposed because you're kind of not uniform. But I do it across the board for everybody, and it's part of the policy. And I have a great product that these families are looking for. So, the good ones are okay with me visiting their home. They don't object at all. They're very proud of their home, and so on. So, my friends, I think that is it for the day. And again, if you want to shoot me an email, I can be at joe@joeasimo.com. And if you want to book a one-on-one with me, go to joeasamoah.com. And don't forget, tenant screening playbook, or the screeningplaybook.com, if you want to learn how to do screening the right way and hopefully get you tier 1 tenants. So until next Wednesday, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care.